الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. Now, so we have reached the 5th ayah of Surah At-Takwir. Allah Ta'ala explained to us the situations of the heavens, the sky that is above us. And now we're getting to details. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Zakira, Sister Aklima, and everyone else. Sister Nicole, Jihad, and everyone else. Now, so now we're at the ayah where Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. Now, عفوا. Now, وَالْوُحُوشُ means wild animals, or really beast of prey. An'am, they're cattle. And wuhush or wahash means to be wild, untamed. You want to say somebody's wild, say, oh, wahash. Somebody's wild and untamed. Also from the word wahash, wuhush, is al-waksha. Because most untamed animals are aloof, meaning undomesticated. They're aloof. They live out in the forest or in the jungle. They live out away. So when you say to somebody, another way to use that word is like you feel distant. Seems like you've been distant from me, and like that, from the derivatives of the same word. But in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala said, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. The ulama talk about this ayah, and they say here, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ جُمِعَتْ مَعَ الْبَشَرِ فِي صَعِيدٍ وَاحِدٍ. And this right here points to something we already went through, or gives us some more detail. This is tafsir of the Quran with the Quran, where you understand one verse of the Quran when you read another verse of the Quran. The Quran is explaining itself. So, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ, it says when the wild animals are gathered together with human beings on one platform. The animals that we stay away from, we avoid, we put in cages, that we fear, they're going to be standing on one platform with the human beings. Al-Wuhush. So it takes us back to the ayat in Surah An-Naba, the last ayat in Surah An-Naba. وَيَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ, when the disbeliever will say, يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا, I wish I was dust. So when we see that ayah, that's the end. That's after this ayah, or the not the ayah itself, but what happens in that ayah in Surah An-Naba is after what happens in this ayah in Surah At-Takwir. In Surah At-Takwir, Allah said, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. We read the ayah before that, وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. When the female camels are neglected, the she camels are neglected while they're pregnant. This is money. Who abandons money? It has to be a great travesty and a major event to make somebody abandon their money, to abandon, especially this is the best wealth that they used to have. So after that, Allah said, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. And when the wild animals are gathered together on one platform with the human being. So what happens? On that platform, judgment takes place. After judgment takes place, everybody is designated to their abode. The believers, they have, some of them will have two abodes. They will have may Allah not make us from those who have two abodes in the akhirah. Ameen. Because A place to live. Yeah. Abode. Yeah. A place to live. ABODE. Place to live. So those who have two abodes, two places to live, that means those believers, may Allah not make us from them, who will have to spend some time in the fire before going to Jannah. May Allah not make us from those who go to the fire temporarily and not permanently. Ameen. May Allah make us from those who go straight to Jannah. Ameen. So some believers will have two places to go. The fire first, Ayadun Billah, and then after that Jannah, because every believer will enter Jannah eventually. The kafir will have one place to go, straight to the fire. May Allah not make us from them. Ameen. So, Allah Ta'ala, after the judgment, before allowing everybody to go to their destination, the animals, the plants, all of these things, well, the animals, I'm sorry, the insects and all of these things will be on that same platform with the human beings. And they will actually, and this is why oppression is serious. The Prophet ﷺ said, that oppression will be darkness over the people who are oppressed on the day of judgment. So what happens? So on this platform, first, the ants, the birds, every animal that was bigger or stronger or more divisive than another animal would get his rights. The sheep with the horns that was crashed into, that crashed into the sheep with no horns. That sheep with no horn will get his right. And then the big ant who took the morsel of food from the small ant, he will get his right. Everything will get its rights. Every form of oppression will be dealt with Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is why when people ask, well, if God can do anything, why doesn't he stop this? And why doesn't he stop this going on? Because Allah Ta'ala said what? وَلَوْلَا كَلِمَةٍ سَبَقَتْ وَلَوْلَا كَلِمَةٌ سَبَقَتْ. If it wasn't for the fact that Allah Ta'ala sent the promise that he would settle all affairs on the day of judgment, he would have settled it in the dunya. But the day of judgment is for settling all those affairs. Between animals, between insects and everything, and especially between the human beings. So after everything is settled, the animals will be turned into dust before our very eyes. They will be turned into dust because they don't go to heaven, nor do they go to hell. So they'll be turned into dust. And then after that, everybody will get their designated spot. People who go of Jannah, go into Jannah. People that's going to be temporary, you got to go. And people that's going to be permanent, you have to go. And this is when a kafir, when he's given his sentence and told to go to the fire, he would see the animals turned into dust and that they're not going to be punished. He would say, yeah, I wish I was turned into dust like them. So this is the ayah I wanted to talk about today, when the animals will be gathered together on the same platform as the human beings for judgment. But the animals won't be judged, but they will take their rights from each other. And then after that, everybody will designate their places. So this is the ayah we wanted to talk about today. If there are any statements or questions, we'll take them now. If not, we'll stop here.
Sure.
Now.
Question, but it's not part of this outside question.
Okay, no problem. Outside question.
For Juma,
Mm-hmm.
in how many Juma you're not supposed to miss?
Now, this is a serious question. Today is Yom Jumu'ah. And our elder brother, Muhammad Torre, says, how many Jumu'ah should you avoid missing? The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever misses 3 Jumu'ahs without an excuse will have a seal placed on his heart. Will have a seal placed on his heart. The danger of a seal being placed on someone's heart is that, let's take the example in the Quran of the hypocrites. Allah said they have seals on their hearts. Let's take the example of the Quran of the Jews. Allah said he put a seal on their hearts. But Allah ala qulubihim. Allah Ta'ala put a seal on their heart. In the beginning of Baqarah, the disbelievers in general, Allah Ta'ala said what? He put a seal on their heart, or the hypocrites also there. So, this seal on the individual's heart stops the individual from being affected by revelation. They're not affected. When a person has a seal in their heart, you can quote every verse in the Quran, every authentic hadith. You can have eloquent speech that moves people. Everybody will be crying and affected, and like that, this individual will not be moved, unaffected. And even if they're affected momentarily, it won't be the effect that will cause them to change his ways. This is the danger of the seal. So anyone that doesn't have an excuse, man, that doesn't have an excuse for missing Salatul Jumu'ah, he's in danger of the threat that the Prophet said that Allah Ta'ala will place a seal on the individual's heart that misses 3 Jumu'ahs without an excuse. Is serious. Now, so this is the danger of missing Jumu'ah.
I have a personal negative.
Nah.
Like, go 3 years, 3 in a lifetime. What does that mean? What's your 3?
Nah. 3 in a row. 3 Jumu'ahs back to back without an excuse. However, there are other hadith that make it general. So Allah knows best. It's just like the hadith of passing in front of somebody when they pray. The Prophet ﷺ said it's better to wait 40. The narrator forgot. Did he say 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years? Even if we take the lowest of 40 days.
When it passes in front of somebody, what happened?
Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ said it's better to wait 40 instead of passing in front of somebody while they're praying. And the narrator who narrated the hadith, he said, I forgot if he said 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years, but he said 40. Either way, imagine waiting 40 days. So this shows you the great sanctity, the sacredness of somebody praying and to cross in front of them while they're praying, because you're coming between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In normal manners, let's say you were standing, Jamil was standing in front of Elder Muhammad Tori, and they were standing, and I walked between them while they were talking. Like an animal. What's
Muslim, but those people, they don't understand that. They don't care what.
You people look like, who passes in front of people while they're talking? Hey, we looked at it very strange. Right, even it used to be, before the woke and this new generation, that used to be the same thing. You like people talking, you'll stop. Like even if you're in the house and let's say somebody's sitting on the couch or somebody's sitting on the love seat and they're to talk, you would stop and let them know I'm going to. Oh, yes. You can't discuss them. So now this person is talking to Allah. He's talking to his Lord. How can we walk through that conversation? La ilaha illallah. SubhanAllah. So that's the seriousness of it. So just like we have that narration where the narrator forgot how many 40 days a month. Also, there's a narration that left it general. So narration is specified, and there's another narration that said just 3. Because the issue is not are they in a row or separated. The issue is they're not being an excuse. That's the problem.
That's lazy.
Yeah. Out of laziness, just not going for no other reason. Because imagine Allah Ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm al-jum'ah fas'aw ila dhikrillahi wa dharul bay'. Allah Ta'ala said, you believe, when the call is proclaimed for the prayer of Jumu'ah, fas'aw, then strive, race, hurry to the remembrance of Allah and leave off all transactions. Leave off all transactions. That is better for you if you know. That is better for you if you knew. So this is the importance of Salatul Jumu'ah, and this is the danger of leaving it off having a seal on the individual's heart. Nah. And of course, we know that for Jumu'ah, the women, children, slaves, and somebody say, well, why is he mentioning slaves? There are no slaves. No, slaves, and I wouldn't say this, of course, to the authorities, but in reality, like when it comes to holding Jumu'ah in prisons, here in the United States, many people fought to have those rights, but the slave that is not obligated to make Jumu'ah. And in the United States of America, one of the amendments of the Constitution, I believe is the 14th, that says slavery has been abolished in the United States of America, except for anyone convicted of a felony, he becomes a slave of the state. So slavery is still legal in America. All you have to do is have a felony. So they did slavery. They just, worked their way around it. And this is why one of the fastest growing businesses, everybody talk about, maybe the coffee business or having a food chain or a clothing line, but one of the fastest growing businesses and almost guaranteed residual income is a prison. You can own a prison. You can privately own a prison. They will bring you customers, guaranteed customers. And this is why the certain laws are set up, You look at places like Virginia, very dangerous place to go through, especially if you're a person that drives quickly, because Virginia has made, I believe it's 10 or 15 miles an hour over the speed limit a felony. A felony. You get a felony for speeding. So they're setting up laws to make very small things felonies in order to increase, and with the felony, what happens? I know this is off subject a little, but a lot, but with a felony, there's certain places you can't rent, right? Jobs you can't get. There's a lot of things that get shut down for you as a felony, and this is how they do what they used to do, redlining certain people they don't want to. So they make certain things felonies for certain crimes. You look at the disparity between different drugs that people use. So drugs are cultural. Drugs are cultural. Certain drugs are cultural. So you have some drugs that all different cultures use. You have some specific drugs. It's strange, but it's true that, for instance, it was known years ago that people of Caucasian persuasion would use powdered cocaine, and people of African American persuasion would use what? Crack. So it could be the same amount. It's the same drug, but this one will be a felony, that one will be a misdemeanor. This one will get you 10 years, that one will get you probation. But it's all to keep the machine going like that. Now, but back to the subject at hand. Anybody who misses 3 Jumu'ahs intentionally without an excuse is under the threat from the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ that they will have their heart sealed. And just because a person has his heart sealed, it doesn't mean he knows. The Jews, they act like they don't know. They can't feel it because they're not affected by revelation. The hypocrites like that. They pray, they don't. They pray, they don't. So may Allah Ta'ala protect us from having our heart sealed and from being of those who avoid obligatory acts of worship while we have the ability to. Nah. Ameen. So we'll stop here, inshallah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.